Live streaming is on.
Okay, so ኮንደና መጣችሁ ሁላችሁ ያልገባ ሰው አለ?
ከቴዲና ከፍቃዱ ውጪ የዚህ ጥያቄ አባል ቴዲና ፍቃዱ ናቸው።
ኦኬ፣ ቴዲና ፍቃዴ ሁለት
ሌላው መስመር ላይ ነው።
ገብቻለሁ እኔ።
ገለታው የት አለ?
ገብቻለሁ ዶክተር።
አይ ገለታው የለም።
ያገባ ነው እኮ ያልገባ ነው እንዴ? ያገባ መስለኝ።
የገባ ነው።
የሰርግ ወቅት ስለሆነ ብዬ ነው።
እውነት ነው። ኦኬ፣ ሶ ካልተሰማችሁ አስቆሙኝ፣ ልቀጥል ነው። ዛሬ የምንነጋገረው እንግዲህ የኮንቲኒዩስ ኢምፕሩቭመንት ፕሮጀክቶችን ኢምፕሊመንት ስናደርግ የፕሮጀክት ሴሌክሽን እና የፕሮጀክት ፕራዮሪታይዜሽን ኮንሴፕቶችን ለማየት ነው የምሞክረው። እንግዲህ የካይዘንን እንደ ፕሮጀክት ከወሰድ ነው እንደ ካይዘን አይነት ፕሮጀክቶችን ኢምፕሊመንት እናድርግ ወይስ አናድርግ የሚል ፕራዮሪታይዜሽን ኢሹ ከተነሳ የእነዚህን ፕሮጀክቶች እንዴት መምረጥ እንችላለን የሚል ስታንዳርድ ተከትለን ፕሮጀክቶችን መምረጥና አናላይዝ ማድረግ የምንችልበትን ቲዮሬቲካል ኮንሴፕት ነው ዛሬ የምናየው። የመጀመሪያው እንግዲህ የፕሮጀክት ፕራዮሪታይዜሽን ማትሪክስ ነው። ፕሮጀክት ፕራዮሪታይዜሽን ማትሪክስ እንደምታዩት የፕራዮሪታይዜሽን ካልን አንድ ናምበር ኦፍ ፕሮጀክቶችን በአንድ ቦታ ላይ ካሰብን እና እነዛን ፕሮጀክቶች ሳይመንትለስሊ ኢምፕሊመንት ማድረግ ካልተቻለ በዲዩ ቱ ዲፍረንት ኮንስትሬንትስ ማለት ነው። የፋይናንሻል ኮንስትሬንትስ፣ ቴክኖሎጂ ኮንስትሬንትስ ወይም ሌሎችም የበጀት ጋር የተያያዙ ወይም ከካምፓኒ ኦብጀክቲቭ ጋር የተያያዙ ኢሹዎች ከተነሱ ኮንስትሬንቶች ከተነሱና if you cannot implement project simultaneously, you just have to think about the prioritization. So in today's class we try to see the prioritization of projects while we have a goal which we want to achieve, and also a number of criteria that we have to consider when we prioritize a specific project and select among the projects. We have to select a project which fulfills the criteria and also are expected to achieve the expected goal from the project. So these are the considerations that we have to discuss in today's class. Then after that, if you got the time, we will also see project management. That means after you select a project by prioritization, you have to also know about the project management, which you need to manage a project using different criteria. So basically, before we discuss about the project management, we will see how we can make a schedule in the project activities, and also how we can make a network on the project activities, then how we can produce the critical path methods on the project. So that will be the essential concept that we have to learn in today's class as per the course guideline that we have for this specific course. So እንግዲህ ፕሮጀክት ፕራዮሪታይዜሽን ስንል ምን ማለት ነው የሚለውን ዛሬ እናያለን። So there are different kind of project grading criteria. So one of the basic criteria, the basic approach that help us to prioritize projects before we select is the considering multi-criteria in order to make a decision in selecting a project. So when I have the multi-criteria decision-making approach, we have to have a multiple criteria that has to be considered in order to make a decision. So the decision-making will be based on the different criteria that to help us to determine in or arrive at some certain decision. So the decision making is a process of arriving at determination based on the consideration of some kind of alternatives. So these alternatives are based on multi criteria that will be that will help you to make a decision in the process. So it involves making decisions based on more than one criteria, and usually sometimes these criteria may be conflict to each other. So as a decision maker in project management and also in decision in company management, you have to be able to understand different criterias in the process and measure those criterias, even if those criterias are conflicting each other. That means they have conflicting interest. For example, if you take in any company, a functional department in a company has an objective in maximizing profit, but when you take, for example, the production department and the inventory department, the production department may require a number of inventories. For example, ብዙ inventory እንዲኖሩ ሊያስብ ይችላል. Because of that, it doesn't want to have an inconsistent production process. So because of that, the production manager especially requires to have plenty of inventories in their warehouse. However, the financial department will not be happy with that decision because the inventories will have a capital tied up, right? So the financial department may require to have a minimum inventory storage in their company. So these two departments, the production department and the financial department, has conflicting objectives, right? In order to maximize the profit. Their overall objective is to maximize the profit of the company, but while in the process they have seems conflicting የሚመስል objective አላቸው ማለት ነው. Similar to that, in project selection, when you have criterias, we may get with conflicting criterias which seems like they work in the opposite direction. So a multi-criteria decision-making process will help you to manage those alternative criteria in the process, and also even if they have conflicting approaches, it helps you to make a decision. So for such kind of multi-criteria decision-making approaches or models, we have a number of tools that you may use. For example, you already know the linear and goal programming in your optimization course. ድምጽ ይሰማችኋል? ምናልባት ዝናብ እየዘነበ ነው።
ይሰማል።
ይሰማል መርሻ?
አዎ ይሰማል ዶክተር፣ በደንብ ነው የሚሰማው።
እሺ፣ ሌሎቻችሁ ይሰማችኋል? ይሰማል ሌሎቻችሁ?
ይሰማል።
እሺ፣ ዝናብ እየዘነበ ስለሆነ ነው ጮክ ለማለት እሞክራለሁ። So in multi-criteria decision-making models, there are a number of tools that you may select in order to prioritize a specified project for your company. So you can use the linear programming or goal programming. You can also use the multi-attribute utility theory. It is one kind of model that you can also use to select the project using some multi-criteria. Or you can use the technique for order performance by similarity to ideal solution, or sometimes it's called TOPSIS. You can also use this one as a methodology, and a merit point system or MEPS. These are different tools that you may also exercise by yourself, which I will not cover in this class. So I will give you the reading assignment if you are interested in making a decision when we have multiple criteria to select a project. However, in this class, I will try to discuss in detail the analytic hierarchy process, which the analytic hierarchy process, as the name indicates, that we need to select a project based on multiple criteria. That those criteria has a hierarchy. So based on the hierarchical approach, we can select the a project. That is the point of it. So the analytical hierarchical process was developed by Thomas L. Sati in 1970s. So the HP, which is called sometimes the, or mostly we call that analytical hierarchy process by the name which is called the AHP. So AHP is known by its flexibility approach, which it is very easy to be understand. Even the procedure, the algorithm are very simple. They are very simple mathematical manipulations, and also it is very helpful and support to make a decision because the algorithm is very simple as it is. I will show you right now. So the HEP allows subjective as well as objective factors, which is very important in making a decision. Some of the times that, for example, if you try to select a project by using different criteria, you may be subjected to have an opinion, collect an opinion from the experts. So most of the times, the experts will give you their subjective point of view. So their subjective point of view has to be changed into objective, which which numerical value of their decision. So the HEP will help you to use both the subjective, which is the expert's opinion, and also the converted expert's opinion to numerical value, which is the objective factor, will be considered in the HEP in order to arrive a decision by following different kind of evaluation process that I will show you in the next slides, right? So the HEP is a method which is a kind of mathematical method, you can say that will help you to measure different kind of criteria. Most of the times we can include those criteria as a social measure or a cost or a time or public acceptance, or you can take the environmental effect, and you can also take other factors which are very important for the success of the project. So the HEP will consider those different factors, and then we measure those factors by using some kind of subjective measurements. And then those subjective measurements like Likert scale, for example. So by the Likert scale, you can evaluate the influence or the impact of social, for instance, to the success of the project. Or you can measure cost, the influence of cost to the success of the project. So these influential measurements will be measured by subjective measurements like Likert scale, right? You give some magnitude for the factors for your target objective, right? So that HEP will be evaluated like this. What means you take subjective measurements and also finally take the objective measurements, which we convert those magnitude measurements into the actual values. So in general, we can say the HEP is a kind of framework which gives you the both inductive and deductive thinkings that you can induct based on the conclusion, or deduct based on I mean, you can deduct from the conclusion and you can induct based on the piece of information. So that is both the approaches that we can use in the HEP. So since we say that HEP or analytical hierarchy process has the hierarchy, so those hierarchies can be classified into these three portions, which first you have a goal in order to achieve. So what kind of goal that we got from the project? That is the first structure and hierarchy in selecting the project. So that goal has to be very clear. The final goal having the specific project, right? And then for those goal, for that specific goal, you need to have some measuring criteria. So you can measure, for example, as a cost factor. We can measure that goal with the environmental factor, or you can measure that goal with the social factor, or you can continue like that, right? So you can mention a number of criteria that has to be fulfilled in order to achieve the specified goal. So that is the first structure, and this is the second structure, which the measuring criteria in order to balance the achievement of the goal. And then based on this number of criteria and the expected goal that has to be achieved by the project, and finally you need to have a number of alternatives, which approaches that has to be followed when we try to implement a project in our scenario. So in order to achieve this specific goal, you may select this alternative 1, or it may be you may select alternative 2, or you may have alternative 3, or you can have a number of alternatives. That is best alternatives in order to have a goal based on the identified criteria that you set. So the HEP will work with this kind of approach, which is a structure in hierarchy. So before you go to the analytical hierarchical process, you have to be able to identify. You have to be able to identify the structure, of your criteria, or kind of project criteria, and also alternatives and a goal that you need to achieve. So since we have said that the HEP has a subjective measurement, and the subjective measurement will be measured by some kind of opinion measurement, so we can say subjective measurements, I can say that, based on the importance of the project with the selected parameter. For example, if you want to measure the importance of the cost, the importance of the project with respect to cost, right? So you can take cost as a measuring criteria, and then you give that criteria for the experts to evaluate in measuring the project's importance as per that kind of criteria, which we mentioned that cost is one criteria. So you put some intensities for measurement, because those intensities are measuring the importance of the project with respect to that factor. For example, we say that cost is one factor. So as a subjective measurement, we have to measure the impact of the project with respect to cost, right? So that is the intensity measurement. For example, you may say that 1. So if I give 1 for projects, different projects, project 1, project 2, project 3, they may be compared as per cost. ከኮስት ጋር ልናወዳደራቸው ይችላል። ለምሳሌ you may have project 1, you may have project 2, you may have project 3, right? So you may compare that with cost. So you may have this matrix. That's why we have a matrix. So you just compare, for example, the importance of project 1 and project 1, which is obviously 1, to the cost factor. And you may measure project 2 to the project 1. So you give value on these values, the importance measurements nature. So if I say 1, for example, project 1 and project 2, so that means you are saying these two projects are equally important with a measurement factor of cost. So the explanation says that 2 elements, that means project 1 and project 2, are contributing equally to the specified element, which is cost for this specific example, right? Or you can say 3, in comparing these two projects, right? So when I say 3, that means project 1 is moderately important than project 3. Okay, so this is the experience judgment that is given by the expert. That's why it is subjective measurement. So the moderate importance of 3 indicators the experience and judgment slightly favor project 1, or I mean project 2, you can say, or project 1 compared to project 2, right? We can continue, you can say 5, essentially strong importance. If you give 7, it's very strong importance. If you get 9, it is a kind of extremely importance, right? So the point is here, 1 point, if you say project 2 is, for instance, in compared to project 3, if you give it 5, right, as comparing with cost, right, your measuring factor is cost. So when I compare project 2 with project 3, project 2 is less costly. That's why it's very important. That is essentially strong importance የሆነበት ምክንያት project 2 ከኮስት አንጻር ሲነጻጸር የተሻለ ስለሆነ ነው። So if project 2 is more important or strong important than project 3, then project 3 will be less important than project 2. So to pick the numerical value of this, we just get the reverse value, because like it is a probability, right? Probability ላይ ስንማር እንዳስታውሳችሁት ማለት ነው። So it is a kind of joint probability. So probability of A times probability of B, right, will give you the probability of A intersection B. I mean A union B. If you remember in the stochastic course, right? So the multiplication of these two projects is probabilities. That means since it is objective, it is a probability value, right? That means, you know, I may say based on my experience, project 2 is more important than project 3. But in reality, it may be in reverse, right? So my numerical value is a probability value, which is not actual value for that matter. So if you multiply these two, that means if project 2 is actually more important than project 3, then project 3 is less important than project 2. That's what I'm saying. So the probability of these two has to be 1, right? Has to be 1. So that is the idea that behind which we have to focus on giving values. So let's have an example first, and if you have a question, just you can ask me. Just if you are listening me. ያዳመጣችሁኝ ከሆነ ማለት ነው። What? አላችሁ?
አለን
እንዴት ናችሁ? እየተሰማችሁ ነው? ዝናብ ላይ ነኝ ያለሁት።
ይሰማል።
ወይስ
እዚህም እየጣለ ነው?
አቤት፣
እዚህም እየጣለ ነው። ይሰማል። ደህና ነው።
አይሰማም?
አይ ይሰማል።
አሬ ሞመንት ማን ያስተማርኩ ቢት ይሰማል? መርሻ
ይሰማል ዶክተር።
ልቀጥል?
አዎ
አንዴ ከብሉቱዝ ጋር ላገናኘው መሰለኝ።
ኦኬ እሺ።
Welcome to new rectangle. The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
Okay, አንዴ ቴክኖሎጂ ተጠቀም ብዬ ነው። አልሰማኝ ያላችሁ እናንተ አሁን ይሰማል?
ይሰማል።
አንተነህ
ቴዲ ይሰማል? ቴዲ
ይሰማል አትሽራ ይሰማል
በቃ አሁን በደንብ ይሰማል። ለኔም ተሰምቶኛል።
ዝናብ እየጣለ ነው ይሰማል
በቃ እየተሰማኝ ነው። አሁን ለኔም እየተሰማኝ ነው። እሺ ልቀጥል። ይታያቸዋል?
ስላይዱ አልመጣም
አጠፋሁት እንዴ?
የለም
ስላይዱ አይታይም
ቆይ then the entire screen then just share. አሁንስ
ይታያል።
አመጣው
እሺ so ጥያቄ ከሌላችሁ እንቀጥል። let's discuss by one using some kind of illustrative example of analytical hierarchy process or AHP. So the first step in hierarchy is identifying the decision hierarchy. So for example, the first objective, maybe the goal of your task is for the appraisal of the project, which appraisal of project means project evaluation method, right? Just you appraise, that means you make some kind of decision at the end of the appraisal. And then the appraisal will be measured by different kind of criteria, right? So your criteria may be technical criteria. Just you evaluate the project using some technical parameters, or you may use the marketing demand parameters. You may use the financial parameters, or you may use the numerical parameters for your project evaluation. Right? Okay. So based on these criteria that we have said to measure to fulfill the objective or the goal, you have different alternatives that you may select project A, or you may select project B, or you may select project C. But these three alternatives has to be evaluated by all criteria that we have mentioned as an objective, with technical, market, finance, and numerical values. So let's proceed. Let's assume that we have criteria, right?
ዶክተር
Yes. ጥያቄ ነው?
ኦብጀክቲቭ ላይ የመጀመሪያ
Goodbye.
Yes.
ኒውሜሪካል የሚለው ማለት ነው።
የተሰማኝ አይደለም ማስቸራይ ቤቢ ዋዴ
ትንሽ ድምፁ ግን አንሷል አትሽር ሰማል
ይሰማል።
አንዴ ቆይ መርሻ
እሺ ችግር የለም።
Welcome to new rectangle. The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
እስካሁን ተናገር።
እሺ እንትኑ እነዚህ ኦብጀክቲቭ ላይ ማለት ነው።
አንዴ ኮኔክት ላድርግ። አይሰማም። አሁን ይሰማል። ቀጥል።
እዚህ ኦብጀክቲቭ የሚለው ላይ ስላይዱ ላይ
እሺ
ቴክኒካልም ማርኬት እና ፋይናንሻል ብዙ እነሱ ኒውሜሪካል እነዚህን አይደል በነምበሪክ በሆነ ወይ ፎርሙላ በሆነ መንገድ የሚገልጸው ራሱ ኒውሜሪካል እንዴት ኦብጀክቲቭ ሊሆን ይችላል?
ነው የምትለኝ እንዴ? እሺ አሁን እኔ እነዚህ እንደ ኤግዛምፕል ናቸው። እነዚህ እኔስ ምን ማለት ተፈልጎ ነው? አሁን አንድ ፕሮጀክት አፕሬያል ብትባል ሊስት የምታደርጋቸው ኦብጀክቲቮች ይኖራሉ። የነሱ ኦብጀክቲቮች ክራይቴሪያ ይኖርሃል። ስለዚህ እነዛ ክራይቴሪያዎች እንደምታውቁት እንግዲህ ብዙ ናቸው ብዙ ጊዜ የምንከተለው የፔስትል አፕሮች ነው ሁሌ የምላችሁ ማለት ነው አይደል እንዴ የፔስትል አፕሮች የምንከተለው ኦብጀክቲቭ ክራይቴሪያዎችን ስናዘጋጅ ማለት ነው ናምበር ኦፍ ክራይቴሪያዎች ለምሳሌ በቴክኒካል ብለ ቴክኒካል አንድ ብቻ ናምበር ኦፍ ቴክኒካል ፓራሜትሮች ደግሞ ታወጣል ቴክኒካል ራሱ ኦብጀክቲቭ ይሆናል አክቹዋል ፕሮጀክት ሲሆን ቴክኒካል በራሱ ኦብጀክቲቭ ይሆናል ማነው ጎል ይሆናል ቴክኒካል ኢቫሉዌሽን ተብሎ የቴክኒካል ኢቫሉዌሽን ፓራሜትሮችን ታወጣለህ ያንን ማለት አይደለም አሁን just let's assume that for that project evaluation ቴክኒካል የሚባል ክራይቴሪያ ማርኬት ኤንድ ዲማንድ የሚባል ክራይቴሪያ ፋይናንሻል የሚባል እና ደግሞ ሌላ ዝም ብሎ ኒውሜሪካል ቫልዩ ማለት just ለምሳሌ ከፕሮፊት አንፃር ሊሆን ይችላል ወይም whatever just we say it numerical you can say another factor ሌላ ቫልዩ ይችላል ኤግዛምፕል ነው ይሄ ማለት ነው so any ቁጥር የሆነ ሌላ አፕሬዛል ብንወስድ በእነዚህ ክራይቴሪያዎች መሰረት you can select the project A ልትመርጥ ትችላለህ ኦልተርናቲቭ ነው ፕሮጀክት B ልትመርጥ ትችላለህ ኦልተርናቲቭ ነው ፕሮጀክት C ልትመርጥ ትችላለህ ማለት ነው ግልጽ ነው so this numerical አሁን የአካዳሚክ ትርጉም ሳይሆን ኤግዛምፕል ነው just xyz እንደሚባለው etc ለማለት ነው ሌላ ኑሜሪካል እንደባሪ እንደማለት ነው ተግባባን ኑሜሪካል ብዙ ኑሜሪካል ለብዬ ነው ፋይናንስም ኑሜሪክ ነው ቴክኒካል ውስጥ ኑሜሪክ ነው ብዙም ኑሜሪክ ስለሚኖር ማለት ዋናው እቺ ስትራክቸር የመጀመሪያ ምን ሰራው እቺን ዲሲዥን ስትራክቸር መስራት ነው then እቺን ዲሲዥን ስትራክቸር ከሰራን በኋላ the second step is establish priorities ምን ማለት ነው ቅድም ያስቀመጥናቸው የፕራዮሪቲ መለኪያዎች አሉ እነዚህ ማለት ነው ቅድም ያስቀመጥናቸው የፕራዮሪቲ መለኪያዎች they measure the level of importance of the specified project compared to the specified criteria so for example when you measure a project with technical parameter so if you compare project 1 and project 2 if project 1 and project 2 has given 1 that means both projects are equally important for technical parameter ማለት ነው so እነዚህን ፕራዮሪቲ ቫልዩዎችን ዲፋይን አድርገን እንሰጣለን ማለት ነው so የመጀመሪያው ስራችን just do overall priority criteria for all goals ጎሎችን መጀመሪያ ኮምፔር ማድረግ so the priorities of the four criteria in terms of overall goal comparison እንሰራለን ማለት ነው ልክ ቅድም ባልኳችሁ የመጀመሪያ ምን ሰራው ይሄን ስንሰራ ክራይቴሪያዎችን ከክራይቴሪያ ጋር እናወዳድራለን which criteria is the most influential የሚለው ለማወቅ ማለት ነው for the project for the specified projects ለሁሉም ፕሮጀክቶች ሊሆን ይችላል ላስቀመጥነው ጎል ነው ዞሮ ካስቀመጥነው ጎል ጋር ነው የምናወዳደራቸው ለምን ክራይቴሪያው እንትኑ ካያችሁት የመጀመሪያው ሌብል ላይ ያለው appraisal of the goal so which of the criteria are the more important to measure the appraisal goals the appraisal of the project የሚለውን ጎላችን አቺቭ ለማድረግ የሚለኩልን የትኞቹ ናቸው the most influential የትኞቹ ናቸው ብለን መለካት አለብን የመጀመሪያው ስራ እሱ ነው ማለት ነው ስለዚህ we compare criteria with criteria the measuring numbers are those numbers that I have shown you in the table for instance we say that finance is more important than technical with a value of 3 intensity is 3 right እንግዲህ finance is more important than technical ካልን the reverse which is the dot product of the priorities ማለት ነው that should be 1/3 which the technical will be less important than the finance right ቅድም ያልኳችሁ እንዳትረሱ if I say market is more important than technical then technical will be less important than market right because the product of 5 times 1 or 5 has to be 1 the numerical value is more important than technical that means technical will be less important than the numerical this is just numbers it's not the theoretical value አይደለም እዚህ እንዳትሉ finance ከቴክኒካል ይበልጣል ማለት አይደለም የኤክስፐርቲስ ኦፒኒየን just example በዚህ መልኩ ይቀመጣል ነው በዚህ መልኩ ይቀመጣል as per the goal ነው እንግዲህ እንደየጎሉ እንደየፕሮጀክቱ ጎል እነዚህ ሜትሪክሶች ይለያያሉ ማለት ነው ይህ ፕሮጀክቱ ማለት ነው የቤት ግንባታ ፕሮጀክት የመንገድ ግንባታ ፕሮጀክት ጋር የተለያየ ኦብጀክቲቭ አለው። ኤዱኬሽን ፕሮጀክት ከአግሪካልቸር ፕሮጀክት የተለየ ዓላማ አለው ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ዋናው ጎሉን መረዳት ነው። የፕሮጀክቶችን ጎል አንደርስታንድ ማድረግ መጀመሪያ ይቀድማል። ከዛ በኋላ ያንን ጎል ሜጀር የሚያደርጉልኝ ክራይቴሪያዎችን ደግሞ ኮምፔር አደርጋቸዋለሁ ከማን አንፃር ከያስቀመጥኩት ጎል አንፃር የነዚህን ክራይቴሪያዎች ኢምፖርታንሲ ለይቼ ያወጣለሁ ማለት ነው። then once I do that I would go to the making measurements for each criteria compared to the alternative objectives, I mean the alternative projects. So for instance we have project A, project B, right, project C, and we have also this on the row and the column. Then I will measure those alternative projects as per technical. So for instance we say that project A is equally likely to project is obviously known because and the project ራሱ ፕሮጀክት ጋር ሲወዳደር ያው ኢኳል ኢምፖርታንስ ነው የሚሆነው። ማትሪክሱ አይደንቲቲ ማትሪክስ ነው የሚመጣው። ጀስት ይሄን ብዙ ጊዜ አውርተናል። but we say that project B is 1/4 project A ካለን ምን ማለት ነው? in other words project A is more important than project B ማለት ነው because the multiplication of these two has to be 1 as I said before. So like that we just measure the importance of this specific criteria to the alternatives. So since we have 4 criteria 1, criteria 2, criteria 3, criteria 4, we have 4 similar tables like this, right? The technical ሰራን next ለማርኬት እንሰራለን similarly, next ለፋይናንስ እንሰራለን similarly, next we do for the numerical values, right? So we have this market table, we have this finance table, we have this numerical table. Then we measure the alternative projects in terms of the identified criteria that we set on the hierarchy, right? Hierarchy ያስቀመጥናቸው ላይ ተነስተን ማለት ነው። So the next is called the pairwise comparison, right? This is called the objective. We'll start here. እስካሁን የሰራነው the subjective ነው። እስከዚህ ድረስ we just do the subjective part. That means we just put the opinion, the subjective measurement of the experts on the importance of numerical criteria on selecting these projects. So that is a subjective measurement. That's why it is subjective, right? So for example, X የሚባል experiment expert measure አርግ ብለው ይህን ይሰጠኛል። ዋይ የሚባል ኤክስፐርት ደግሞ ሌላ ሊሰጠኝ ይችላል። the same numerical criteria to the project ማለት ነው። as evaluator or a project manager, what should do at the end of its evaluation is, right, to take the average values. Doesn't matter, right? You just take the average values of all the values, the numerical values, because it is a subjective and you have a number of experts that gives you the opinion with the intensive measurement. So the subjective measurement will go like this. But the second step, which is called the objective measurement, is doing the pairwise comparison matrix. What does it mean, the pairwise comparison matrix? The pairwise comparison matrix will give you the impact of each criterias, right? Criterias for the specified project. So እንግዲህ ይሄን የምናመጣው ከየት አንስተን ነው? we just take this subjective measurements from the previous procedure that I do, that I get the subjective intensive measurements of this technical parameter while compared to this projects, and then we just add all the values that has given by the experiment, which is average value for this actual ሲሆን በነገራችን ላይ number of experts አሉ ብያቸዋለሁ ቅድም። እነዚህ average values ናቸው ብያቸዋለሁ። just the first step will do the average. For now just we have one expert, በዛ ወሰዱት። ስለዚህ numeric value አልተቀየረም እዚህ ላይ ማለት ነው። actual ብንሰራ ግን እነዚህ average values ስለሚሆኑ የብዙ ሰዎች ከ10 ሰው ከወሰድን ቴክኒካል ሜጀርመንት ነው የሰሩ የ10 ሰዎችን average ነው የምሰራው። በዛ ያንን በታሳቢነት አስገቡልኝና we just add the values of this project A while compared to the technical and to the column side. So its magnitude summation is 12ኛ for this value ማለት ነው የዚህ 11 ሁለተኛ ይመጣል የዚህ 6 ይመጣል so that is first step on in the pairwise comparison a pairwise comparison የመጀመሪያው step ነው objective measurement ያለው ማለት ነው then once we do that summation we just divide like in the probability ማለት ነው we just probability means if you remember it is called the counting of that event divided by the counting of the sample space that we have said, right? So like a proportion of just here we do the proportion impact of technical to the different projects. So for instance we say 19 ሁለተኛ 12ኛ ምትነዋል ሳሜሽን ናቸው which is 19 12ኛ ኮለመን ሳይድስ እንደምር ማለት ነው So what we have did in the next slide is we just divide 1 by the summation. Next, and አራተኛን በsummation. Next, and ሶስተኛን በsummation. So we get the ratio, right? This is the ratio. This is the ratio. This is the ratio. You can't write by yourself. So you do for all. For B you do the same. For C, for project C you do the same, and for all parameter criteria you will do the same. So this is a conversion fraction to the decimal. This is simply fraction to the decimal. So you do for the same to the market. Similarly, yes, we have the summation, we have this proportion, and we convert that proportion into fraction. I mean for decimal. And also for the finance again, you do the summation, you do that proportion, and also you do so that's decimals. And for the numerical the same, you do add the values, you do that proportion, and we have that decimal, right? So parallelly when you do that, you don't have to forget is that you have to have the average value of project A while compared to project A, B, C on the technical parameter. And you can also find the average value of project B while compared to the other projects on the technical parameters. And you can also compute the average value of project C while compared to project A, B, C on the technical parameters. So similarly, you do for the others, for the market, you do for the finance, and you do for the numerical values, right? So the pairwise comparison will go like this, and then the final is making a decision. So how can I make a decision having that pairwise comparison? So just similarly as you do it for the technical parameters comparing to the objective alternative solutions, you do that pairwise comparison to the technical parameters for overall objective. That means overall objective of the project, the entire project. So if you remember, we give values for criteria comparing to the overall project objective. So similarly, we just add, right, the value of the technical, and then we do some proportion, right? So finally we have the average value. That's what we need for the decisions, right? So this is just the decimal value of the proportion that as we did it in the previous iterations, right? So once we do have these values, we go to the next step, which we just take the average values that we do for all. ለምሳሌ በአንድ ቴብል መሰብሰብ ትችላላችሁ ወይም ከመጨረሻው ላይ ለምሳሌ ቴክኒካል ኦቨርኦል ኢምፓክት ስንት ነው 0.6 የማርኬት ኦቨርኦል ኢምፓክት በፕሮጀክት ኤ ካየ ነው 0.168 በፋይናንስ የፕሮጀክት ኤ ነው የምንለው ኦቨርኦል ኢምፓክቱ 0.156 የኑሜሪካል በፕሮጀክት ኤ ያለው ኦቨርኦል ኢምፓክት ከወሰድ ነው 0.127 right ይሆናል ማለት ነው በኦቨርኦል ክራይቴሪያ ኦልሬዲ ቅድም የወሰድናቸውን ማባጃ ናቸው እነዚህ የሚሆኑት በኋላ አውል ሾው ዩ ሶ ዩ ሃቭ ዲስ ማለት ነው 0.62 0.168 0.156 እነዚህ ቫልዩዎች የፕሮጀክት ኤ impact on the identified factors which is project A to the technical ቅድም ባሳየዋችሁ መሰረት project A to the market project A to the finance project A to the numerical ማለት ነው so we just collect all the values ይሄ የፕሮጀክት A በዚህ መልኩ ሰበሰብን ማለት ነው then you can also collect for project B for similar iterations let's back and we'll see በኋላ ስንሰበሰበው ግልጽ ይሆናል ለምሳሌ ፕሮጀክት ቢን ከወሰድን overall impact is 0.224 on technical project B on market 0.719 project B on finance it is 0.62 all right or average impact ማለት ነው project B on numerical it is 0.623 so basically you can take those values and then you can have 0.224 0.719 0.62 and 0.623 so you can also do for project C right this is called the priority ranking overall priority ranking እንለዋለን ማለት it is called the overall priority ranking so this is the criteria ranking from the overall criteria right ከዚህ ማለት ነው ከዚህ ቴብል ወሰን ነው 0.05 የቴክኒካል overall ኢምፓክቱ ከሌሎች ጋር ሲወዳደር 0.05 ሲሚላር ቅድም እንዳነበብ ነው ማለት ነው ሜጀርመንታችን overall ጎላችን ስለሆነ እዚህ ጋር ያለው ጎል ስለሆነ ነው እንጂ they are the same so while compared to the overall goal the influence of technical as compared to this other criteria is 0.05 the overall impact of market to the overall goal while compared to the other criteria is 0.216 of finance 0.103 numerical 0.31 right so this is how we take those values and then just how we can find the influence it is a matrix operation you can take this is matrix A right matrix A and this is matrix B right so you can multiply this both so when you multiply row by column that's what we do for project influence ለማግኘት ከፈለግን የፕሮጀክት influence will be right a project influence will be let's write it here and you will understand when you see the multiplication actual multiplication a project A will be 0.62 times 0.005 I hope you remember the matrix operation where you have your stochastic course plus 0.168 times 0.216 plus 0.156 times 0.103 plus 0.127 times 0.632 and it will give you right the measurement or the overall impact of or influence of or priority of project A or rank of project A as compared to other projects that means as other project means project B and project C so similarly you do that for project A you get this value for project B you will get this value and project C you will get this value so the highest impact will be selected or the highest rank will be selected so you recommend that project B is a priority for this company to be selected to implement this project when this project is evaluated by criteria of technical market finance and numerical second as per the requirement of the client you can also recommend to consider project C right based on those selected criteria so this is a rank project B is the first project C is the second project A is the third as per the identified criteria to be recommended for your client when it requires to implement it or not. So that is our
Hello.
yes.
ዶክተር አይ ድምፅ ይቆራረጣል እኔ ጋር።
እሺ ጥያቄ ንገረኝ። ጥያቄ አለ?
ጥያቄ ሳይሆን አይ ድምፅ ነው።
እሺ ምን ላድርገው ታዲያ? ሌሎቻችሁ ይሰማችኋል? ሄሎ
ይሰማል ዶክተር? ለእኔ ይሰማኛል።
አልተሰማችሁም? አንተ ነህ? አንተ ነህ? ይሰማል?
አዎ ይሰማል ነገር
መርሻ
ዶክተር ይሰማል? እኔ ጋር መልስ እየሰጠ ነው። ይሰማል? አይ ልጆቹ እንዳይረብሹ ብዬ ነው።
እሺ ስለዚህ አይቆራረጥም። ስለዚህ ፍቄ አንተ ከአንተ ላይ እንዳይሆን ችግር ያለው
እስኪ ዳታ እሺ
ከአንተ ሊሆን ይችላል። Okay, so based on that, just on conclusion, we just select project B will be appraised first and financed confidentially, right? So we just conclude like that. We just select project B compared the other projects using different criteria. This is called the HP. And HP የሚባለው ነው ማለት ነው። HP የሚባለው ነው። ጥያቄ ካላችሁ you can select. And also the other criteria are there. This is HP is not the only criteria to select a project. You can also use investment criteria, which I will not teach you in this course because this course is not a project management course, so that I will not get into detail. But if you are interested in project management, you can also see investment criteria in selecting the project. That means if your criteria is the major criteria is finance, right? So if you want to take the financial considerations are a major criteria, or finance is your constraint, so basically you can take the investment criteria as the major criteria to select the project. So there are two measuring criteria in finance or investment criteria, which the first one is discounting criteria, and the other is called the non-discounting criteria. So non-discounting criteria are called the payback periods or accounting rate of returns, right? So they are not considering the discount rates in calculating the return of the project. And the other is the net present values, benefit cost ratios, internal rate of return. እነዚህ በሙሉ የኢንቨስትመንት ክራይቴሪያዎች ናቸው። የአንድ ፕሮጀክት ቪያቢሊቲ የሚለኩል እነዚህ ፋይናንሻል ፋክተሮች ናቸው ማለት ፋይናንሻል ኮንሲደሬሽኖችን ወስደን ስንሰራ ማለት ነው። አዘር ክራይቴሪያዎች ካሉ ግን እነዛዎችንም መውሰድ ያስፈልጋል ማለት ነው። So ከዚህ ጋር ተያይዞ there are project management terms that you have to learn. That means by any means you select a project, right? Just let's assume that you select a project, whether you are using the AHP or other kind of multi-criteria decision analysis, or you take the investment criteria as the only criteria to make a decision for the viability of the project. In any ways, you select a project, right? So one project is selected. So if one project is selected, then the next activity will be the project management techniques. So before I go to this chapter, this is chapter 5. If you have any question on project selection and other issues, then we can discuss a little bit. I'm not discussing more because it's out of the course objective, but if you want to have an idea on selecting a project, you can discuss practically. የሚያጋጥማችሁ ችግሮች ካሉ እዚህ ላይ የተወሰነ ዲስከስ እናደርጋቸው ነው። ጥያቄ ካላችሁ before I go to this chapter. Any question? Any question?
የለም
የለም። So the next thing that we want to discuss is a project management technique. So before that, let me ask you first, what is project? What is project? What is project? Hello. አንድ ባንድ ማን ቴዲ መጀመሪያሽ ቴዲ
አቤር
ፕሮጀክት ምንድነው?
ፕሮጀክት ማለት ያው አንድ የስራ ቦታ ላይ የምንቀርጸው ነገር ማለት ነው።
ሳይንቲፊካሊ ዲፋይን አድርገን
ወደ ስራው ከመግባታችን በፊት ያው እኛ የምንነድፈው ነገር አለ።
እሺ ሳይንቲፊካል ዴፊኒሽን
ሊሰራ የሚቀጥል ቴክኒኮችን የተለያዩ ቴክኒኮችን በመጠቀም ማለት ነው።
እሺ ሌላ ሽታ ያለች እሺ ሌላ ሁላችሁ መመለስ አለባችሁ። እሺ በርሻ ማነው ገለታው? መርሻ ነው ገለታ ያለው ማን? አንተ ነህ። አንተ ነህ ወይም መርሻ?
ፕሮጀክት ማለት እንደኔ ሐሳብ ሊተገበር ያለ አይዲያ ማለት ነው። ግን የመተግበሪያ አክሽን ፕላን የወጣለት
እሺ
የአፈጻጸም ስኬጁል ያለው በጀቶቹ ሁሉ ነገር ቅድም ካየናቸው ክራይቴሪያዎች በመነሳት ሴት የተደረገለት ሊተገበር ያለ ሐሳብ ሆኖ ግን ሐሳቡ ወደ ተግባር ሊፈጸምበት የተቀመጠበት ሁሉም ስኬጁል ያለቁለት እንደማለት ነው።
So project is an idea for you.
Yes.
ለአንተ ሐሳብ ነው ፕሮጀክት ማለት።
ሐሳብ ነው ግን የሚተገበር ማለት
የሚተገበር ሐሳብ ነው ለአንተ። ጥሩ ትርጓሜ ነው። እሺ አንተ ነህ ወይም ገለታው?
ያኔ ይሰማል ዶክተር? እኔ
ይሰማኛል።
ፕሮጀክት ማለት ምናልባት የአጭር ጊዜ የረጅም ጊዜ የተነደፈ ፕሮጀክት ሊሆን ይችላል። ማሽን መትከል ሊሆን ይችላል፣ ኢንስታሌሽን ወይም ደግሞ ሰዎች ላይ የሚሰራ ስራ ሊሆን ይችላል። መነሻ መድረሻ ያለው አውትካም ያለው ግን ማጥናት ለውሳኔዎች የሚቀመጡ ክራይቴሪያዎችን መሟላት አለመሟላቱን እያየን የምንወስነው ነገር ማለት ነው ፕሮጀክት።
ውሳኔ ነው ለአንተ ውሳኔ ነው ምንድን ነው? ዲፋይን አድርግልኝ። አሁን ልክ እንደ እንትና ሐሳብ ኢምፕሊመንት የሚተገበር ሐሳብ
እኔ ግን
ያንተ ነው የሚተገበር ውሳኔ ነው ምንድን ነው?
የተነደፈ ንድፈ ሐሳብ አለ። ሐሳብ ብቻ ሳይሆን ንድፈ ሐሳብ አለ፣ የተቀመጠ ሐሳብ አለ። ያንን እንዴት እንተግብረው ብለን ፕሮሰስ የምናደርገው ነገር ነው ፕሮጀክት ይባላል።
ኦኬ ሶ ዘ ፕሮሰሲንግ ሜካኒዝም ነው ወይም ፕሮሰሱ ራሱ ነው። ፕሮሰስ ማለት ነው ለአንተ
መጀመሪያ መነሻ አለው ፕሮሰሱ ፕሮሰስ ከጀመርን
መነሻና መድረሻ ያለው ፕሮሰስ። ጥሩ ሶ ስታርቲንግ ኤንድ ኤንድ ያለው ፕሮሰስ ኢዝ አ ፕሮጀክት ፎር ገለታው። እሺ ማን ነበር? አንተ ነህ የለም የለም እንዴ አንተ ነህ?
አንዴ ተኛ
አይሰማም
ይሰማል
ሀሳብክን ለመስማት ፈልገን የተሰማው አይደለም መሰለኝ እሺ ሌትስ ኮንቲኒው ሶ ልክ ናችሁ በዋናነት ፕሮጀክት ስንል የገለታው ሀሳብ ጋር ሞር ይሄዳል which is a process by itself but we call that project as a process but it is a unique process ለምንድነው ዩኒክ የምንለው ነው ዋናው ጥያቄ እንደማንኛውም አክቲቪቲ እንደማንኛውም ፕሮሰስ የራሱ መነሻ መድረሻ አለው which has a coordinated and controlled activities with start and end dates and also in those processes we consume resources and we have some kind of requirements or constraints to achieve የጊዜ የገንዘብ የሪሶርስ ኮንስትሬንት አለብን ነገር ግን we call that as a unique process means we will not repeat once the project is